advised that proper notice has been given by the Township Council in accordance with the Sunshine Law in the following manner. Notice advertised in the Burlington County Times and Penny Post on January 11, 2017, and posted on the bulletin board on the scene. Mr. Burrell?
Here.
Mrs. Flody?
Here.
Mr. Schwartz?
Here.
Mr. O'Connell?
Here.
Mr. Patrick?
Here. So, good evening, everybody. Sorry I was late. Traffic was wonderful in Pennsylvania. So our first item on the action items that we need to take care of tonight is the approval of the minutes for November 13th. It was the public meeting. I ask for a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Mr. Burrell?
Aye.
Mrs. Flody?
Aye.
Mr. Schwartz?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Mr. Patrick?
Aye. Next is an ordinance on second reading. Now, this is ordinance 2017-14, an ordinance to establish salaries for various employees of the township and regulating the manner of payment for the same. This being a second reading, we have a public hearing, so I'll ask for a motion to go into public.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So we're in public portion for this ordinance and this ordinance only. Once again, this is the salaries ordinance 2017-14. Seeing no hands, I'll ask for a motion to come out of our public hearing.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we're back in our regular meeting, and I would ask for a motion to approve ordinance 2017-14.
Mr. President, I just have one question for the administrator, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Last year, there was a lot of scrutiny over this, the salary ordinance, and some things were, like, certain people thought that they were less than clear. You remember that, Jeff? Where the recycling coordinator pay, and people thought that it looked like there was, they're getting paid, $2,000 a week or every other week or something. Were those things correct? It was impossible, really, for the way the layout is.
Actually, all of the salaries are annual, and then it just gives the pay period.
Pay
So,
period, okay.
yeah, all of them are annual salaries,
Okay.
unless they're specifically noted like an hourly.
Okay, because I got a lot of phone calls. All right, thank you very much. Sorry, Mr. President, I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Mr. Burrell?
Aye.
Mrs. Flody?
Aye.
Mr. Schwartz?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Mr. Patrick?
Aye. Okay, so our first item on the regular agenda, this one? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. My bad. Two more. So now we have, again, on the second reading, ordinance 2017-15, and this is our second ordinance to establish salaries for various employees of the township and the state of, and the manner of payment for the same. Jeff, just explain to everybody the difference between the first and the second.
The first one was for union employees, the second is for non-union employees.
Good, thank you. I have a motion to go into public.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, so we're once again asking if anyone has any questions at this point regarding this ordinance and this ordinance only. Seeing no hands, I'll ask for a motion to come out of public.
Motion to close the hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. I need a motion to approve ordinance 2017-15.
So moved.
I'll second.
Mr. Burrell?
Aye.
Mrs. Flody?
Aye.
Mr. Schwartz?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Mr. Patrick?
Aye. And we have one resolution, and this is Resolution 2017-231. This is a resolution authorizing the 2017 sewer adjustments for new property owners. Fortunately, there's quite a few. They need a motion to approve.
I'll make
So,
that.
go ahead, Patty. Second.
Mr. Burrell?
Aye.
Mrs. Flody?
Aye.
Mr. Schwartz?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Mr. Patrick?
Aye. Okay. So now we're in our work session agenda, and our first item is discussion of the model ordinance regarding the sale of cats and dogs, and this is casually referred to as the puppy mill ordinance. And what we requested of our legal team was to have them review the ordinance that was presented to us as a sample ordinance, and ask them to comment. So, Brian, I'm just gonna cut right to the chase and ask you to discuss what concerns you may have had with regard to this ordinance.
As it's presently drafted, my analysis is that it would not meet the rational basis test and therefore would be unconstitutional. It's overly broad in that it encompasses, it basically by definition makes any private commercial seller by definition a pulpery mill, and that would not be something that holds up in court. And therefore, if this ordinance was enacted, it would be ripe for challenge.
Okay, so just to be clear, for those folks who are here regarding this issue, this is not that we're in favor of puppy mills by any stretch of the imagination. Currently, we have two pet stores in town. One does not sell puppies or cats, and one does and has just re-grand opened. Most of us were there, and they have vowed that they will sell only rescues. So at the present moment, there are no pet stores that would even be impacted by this. What our discussion really has to be in council is, do we feel the need to have the attorneys draft what they feel would be a constitutional anti-puppy mill ordinance, or do we just wait until that issue comes up as we go? That would be an accurate assessment of what we need to do here, because it doesn't make any sense for us to pass a law that in our legal opinion says would not hold up in court, invite costs of creating a court case and defending it and losing. So anybody have any questions or comments at the table? That
We open up the
Are you
public.
accepting?
are you Jean?
I'm Jean.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I missed the introduction part of the.
We weren't introduced. That's
Okay. So, being that we have the person that actually created the interest in this ordinance here with us, I think we should extend the opportunity for them to speak and have you take a moment to tell us your feelings and see what other additional information you can give the council.
Okay, well, I did send, first of all, my name is Jean Clayton. I'm a co-founder of New Jersey Residents Against Puppy Mills. And I appreciate the opportunity to come speak to you tonight at the invitation of the mayor. So thank you. I didn't quite get everything that your lawyer said about the being challenged in court, like what your reasoning was on that?
Basically, based on my analysis, it would not meet the rational basis test. For the government to enact any law, it needs to be narrowly tailored to a compelling government interest. And because it captures a broader spectrum of entities than what is actually intended. So therefore, as presently drafted, it would not be constitutional and ripe for challenge in court.
Okay, I understand your concerns, and I'm really not, I'm not a lawyer. I would like for someone in our group to speak to you about this, but it has been challenged in about 10 cases, I think?
A little less.
A little less.
Nationwide.
Nationwide, yes.
It's been upheld even on appeal every time.
Do you know if there's been any in New Jersey?
There is one pending challenge from a town where a pet store was already in place, and it's I'm sorry, my name is Larry Cohen. I'm a volunteer with the Humane Society of the United States. I work with Brian Hackett. It's the Humane Society's strong opinion and analysis that issue is about the pet store trying to wrangle out an extension on their lease. They want to be grandfathered in, basically. So it's not so much a challenge to the legality of the ordinance, it's their particular situation, because there was a pet store currently operating that was selling retail. It has never been challenged from any of the 115 other New Jersey municipalities that have passed this.
On a constitutional basis. And this store, the town passed an ordinance while the store was there, and they did not implement it right away. So the store is coming back and saying, since you didn't implement it right away, it's no good. And they're discussing it, they're talking about it, but it has nothing to do with the
Yeah,
constitutionality.
that sounds like a separate issue.
Okay, yes. But I'm gonna have someone get back to you on this rational basis test that you spoke to.
Okay.
That knows a lot more than I do. I sent everyone materials, and I think you pretty much get what we're saying. So, you know, we're just here for the humane side, the humane part of this. Animals have been let down by every branch, every level of government. There's federal laws, there's state laws, and they're just not enforced, or they're not strict enough. New Jersey would have had a new stricter law back this summer, but it was vetoed by the government, the Governor Christie, and so that hasn't taken effect. Right now, pet stores can get away with anything. They report lists of who they breed from. They can put any name in the world on that list. We used to be able to check it against the database put out by the USDA. They pulled that database down in February, so now we have no way of checking breeders. The 1 year we were able to do it in 2015, we found over 280 violations of the Pet Purchase Protection Act, which is the law of New Jersey, where they were buying from breeders with such egregious violations that it's not allowed by law. In New Jersey, you cannot buy from a breeder who has so many violations, over so many. So we have been, after the pet stores, we've been trying to work with Consumer Affairs. They have let us down on every level, and we had to originally get a senator involved that sponsored this bill, the Attorney General he went to, who let him down. Then they went to the head of Consumer Affairs, who let him down again. We ended up with a reporter who wrote a story, and that kind of got something moving. So they were finally fined for violations of not posting information in their store for the consumers. Right now we're fighting another battle for where they're sourcing their dogs from when we got the information in 2015, which we can prove where they sourced from. It has been sitting on Consumer Affairs desk for 2 years now, collecting dust, and they have done nothing. So we'll probably end up with the senator again, and you'll read a news report about that someday. So there's just no enforcement. I mean, the federal law is very loose and does not protect animals. By their minimum standards, an animal can live in a wire cage its entire life with a wire floor, with just enough room to turn around. And this is fact. I don't think anybody would want a living thing to live like that. But it's the laws are so minimal and so loose that they can get away with that. USDA inspectors, they enforce a law, they don't. They write up a violation or they don't. Even if they write a violation, it could go for years before a breeder was brought in and actually given a fine. Breeders just change their license number. If they have too many violations on that number, they just drop it, pick up a new number, go right on like nothing happened. So at the state level and the federal level, the laws are not good enough, and there's no enforcement on either one of them. So we are petitioning counties. We've passed 116 ordinances in New Jersey already for towns that want to do the right thing, have a humane model, help animals in this situation from the lives they live. And as we said, there have not been any challenges here, but I will get the gentleman information. So that's our whole purpose and our whole goal, just to improve the lives of animals. And we'd like to invite you to join these other towns and hopefully adopt an ordinance. Thank you.
I can tell you, the majority of council do feel the same way you do. That's why I encourage you guys to come here and to try to do it. We did, I did say I was going to pass it by our solicitor, but like I said, if legally, if we're clear, that, we can't get sued and stuff like that, then we feel more comfortable. But right now, we have to go by our legal counsel. So.
So I have two councilmen that want to make comments.
Okay.
Dan?
The sample ordinance here in our agenda, that's what you provided to us?
Well, I just wanted to make sure which one you got, because since you have a store in town, even though they're not selling puppies, they are a rescue store, so we wouldn't want to put them out of business. Where is it? So, we were using the first ordinance we have that we've changed from, which I'm not sure if you got this one. It's on the second page, restrictions.
Yes, on sales of animals?
Right.
Yeah.
It has A, animal care facility, and B, animal rescue.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's the one.
That was
So then
one.
you wouldn't have to worry about grandfathering them in, or anything like that.
The reason I ask is I know Morristown adopted
Yes, they
an
do.
ordinance. Is it based on this?
Yes, it is, yeah.
Is it
Most-
exactly like this?
May not be exactly, I can send you a copy of it. Some towns change a few things, but that is the main thing in there. I can send you a few ordinances from different towns if you'd like to look at them.
No, I think that's fine. I think
Okay.
our attorneys, I share the mayor's opinion. I think, I don't want to speak for the other council members, but I know this seems to me to be just common sense. It's something that we can support, but we want to make sure that we don't get sued in the
I
process.
understand perfectly.
If I may, the Humane Society has a team dedicated to working with councils on their ordinance language. So I can give you the name and contact information for a woman with the Humane Society who, that's what she does. She works with councils to help them draft.
Yeah.
Tyler, you had a question?
I wanted to echo what, Dan and Ken said, we all can stand by, the ordinance. I think, can we just have, the legal team take a look and narrow some of that down?
And maybe
with
get the
those guys?
information from them,
Yeah.
that your your group, that
Right.
could possibly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's common sense.
I
that
could get her to
Ken
call
said.
somebody as early as tomorrow, I guarantee you.
Yeah.
Is that?
I'm gonna give you a card.
There you go.
We are all.
Rescue owners.
Okay.
Thank
I
you.
read your bio.
My mother,
Greyhound,
my
yes.
mother just got one from the store that just reopened with this.
Oh, thank you.
So,
Thank you for your efforts.
So,
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
let's find an answer that works and that doesn't open us up to suit. And I just judging from
I have a
from
question
taking.
of legal before we can.
Yeah, of course.
Brian, one of my concerns with it is, are we in a position as a town to, this is really under the state and federal government where they have licensing processes and things of that nature. And the reason that I'm a little bit concerned, I agree with the concept 100%, is that, like with those reports, I did a lot of research on this, and with those reports with like the USDA, it's because there's a suit that's taking place in federal court right now, that it's a violation of privacy, it's, et cetera, et cetera. But, and I did read the governor's opinion on this veto. I think we should, I don't know if it's a better direction to maybe put this to the state through a resolution that, we agree that the state should take action. Because I don't know if it's really within our jurisdiction, I guess would be my question.
You're correct in that a municipality needs to pass any law, it needs to be authorized to do so in New Jersey by the state legislature. So in order for any of the towns in the state to enact this ordinance, there would need to be state law that says they're allowed to.
Well, I guess, since it really doesn't apply, like, we don't have a store that is at issue here. I mean, the USDA has a ton of money. They can defend lawsuits all day long, I'm sure. The residents of Delran don't. And this is something like we're putting ourselves at risk. I mean, I read your memo as well. We're putting ourselves at risk for something that really doesn't even apply, or putting taxpayers at risk, with defending a potential suit. There are lawsuits that are ongoing. And again, it's difficult because I 100% agree that this shouldn't exist. But, it's like we are, the stewards of the taxpayers' money.
So,
So I guess the question will be, we'll just make sure that we're clear in our jurisdiction.
right, so it sounds like they have ordinances that have been passed and that are holding their weight under scrutiny. So why don't you have your folks reach out to one another?
Sure.
I just wanted to mention that everything in this ordinance follows state law.
Okay.
If you had reasons why you thought that the governor had reasons to veto this, I mean, that's something else. Of course, we don't agree with him, but.
Well, I didn't necessarily agree with him either.
Yeah.
But his, you know, the point that he made was that there were these federal suits that are taking place, which has nothing to do with this
Oh,
ordinance
for
at
the
this level.
USDA?
Yeah, with
Oh,
USDA,
okay.
and
But that's shut
Yeah.
down now, and that was a privacy issue.
Yep.
They said it was, we couldn't get the inspection reports because a lot of these readers read from their home, so then we had.
Yeah, and that original bill included that the state would have to publish the reports, but
Yes, and
but they were shut
yeah,
down.
that's going nowhere either.
Well, so Governor Christie has a couple of weeks left in office, and then.
Well, he already vetoed it, and they didn't override the veto.
Well, if it's any consolation, my understanding is it's being reintroduced with the new session.
Yes, hopefully, and hopefully stronger, hopefully.
So that's the plan going forward. Thank you very much for taking the time
Thank
to come
you,
out
we
and join us.
appreciate
And
it.
we applaud your efforts.
The invite and letting us speak.
We have a bunch of rescue owners here, so.
Yes, I'm here.
It's all good. It's all good. So the next item on our agenda, and you're welcome to stay, there's no charge, it's very entertaining.
You don't want to.
You don't want to.
And it gets warmer as the night goes
I
on, so.
find the meeting very interesting.
Well, you
It's a snow
stay.
shovel thing up in, I don't know where.
Okay.
You should shovel this one block, and I said, I'll shovel it, let's move on.
So the next item is a hardship waiver, actually two for 58 Foxglove and 107 Foxglove. Jeff, these are similar to all the others that we've encountered. We've always granted them the opportunity to receive the hardship waiver. Is there any reason that we shouldn't in this case?
No.
So do we have any questions from council?
We've done this a lot.
No. Yeah, we've done two of these. Is there anything we need to do, or is this a resolution we put on the public, or can we just make a decision here?
If you do.
Someone would need to give authority to Mr. Hatcher in order to go back to HAS and say that the township's granting a waiver.
So if we were to have a motion to authorize Jeff to contact these folks and tell them that
Thank you.
they have approval for the waiver, that would be enough with the voice
That would be
vote.
satisfying for
Right.
us.
So does anyone want to make that motion?
I'll make a motion to approve as stated by the attorney and president of the council.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations to those folks. Okay. So next we have a preliminary discussion about the installation of a kiosk in the community park that would serve a number of purposes, not the least of which would be an opportunity to thank the contributors that have been so generous to contribute for the benefit of the park. I'm not sure if we're here to talk about the what's going to go on this or what style of kiosk we want. I've seen these kiosks. Matter of fact, I think I've seen this kiosk. Oh yeah, Laurel Run.
Yeah.
So what is it that we need to talk about tonight, other than?
The original plan was to determine whether or not, first of all, you want a kiosk. And then to get, we were trying to get an estimate, we got some estimates, talked to Jerry. We're thinking about possibly building it ourselves rather than contracting it out because of the cost of it. That's step number one. Then
Okay.
after that, then, your discussions as to what goes on it, you can have those discussions, but one of the first things was, we were looking for another avenue to put the one contributor on that hasn't been put on.
Right.
And also the memorial wall, that hasn't been put up, so I think that could also go on here.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to entertain all of the discussions about what goes on, or if you just wanted to discuss the possibility of utilizing this for those purposes of putting things up in any park.
Let me just give you my recommendation of what I foresaw as.
Well, first of all, do
kiosk.
we all want a kiosk? Maybe we should say
Oh,
that first.
okay.
Let's see if we
That
want to
should
do
be-
that.
My first question is where at in the park?
And unfortunately, I didn't provide
I mean,
a
just
plan,
that I don't need
but
it.
it's on the, it was essentially on the, when you're coming into where the community built the restroom concession stand is, before you get there on the right-hand side, there is an open area. You've got sidewalk, and then it's open before you get to the park area.
Before you get to the flagpole, if you're coming down the
To the
main
right.
entrance, to the right.
Right.
To the right.
So it'd be the higher up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's
okay.
nothing there, and if, again, if down the road you're gonna put anything like a map or something in there, because you talked about nature trails and stuff like that,
Yeah.
usually things like that go on there, and it would be before you got further into the park. But it just seemed like a logical area to put
And
it.
that is on the grass or on,
On the grass.
so they'll be walking on the grass to get there, or is it like cemented?
I would think this should be on concrete or something, because
Well, that would-
if it's wood like
Yeah,
this,
that's
it's
what I
gonna
heard.
Well,
rot,
maybe you could,
first of all.
I think the spot
You
is
could put it
nice.
on- You could put it on.
Block.
concrete.
You could put, yeah, or you could put a little,
The other idea was to have it match the front entrance
I think it should,
sign,
yes.
where it would have
Yeah.
like a stone
Yeah.
feature at the
Mhm.
bottom, so they matched it and it looked, looked nice.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Is this being paid through donations or we pay?
No.
No, I mean, we've received you know, a multitude of donations that, you know, have all been put into the park fund, so to speak, and many of these sponsors have paid for signs and scoreboards, and there's still one, I guess it's no secret, that ShopRite has been a big supporter, and we haven't found an opportunity to do that. So if we use some of the money that they provided to create this and use that as an avenue for generating more donations, I think that in turn makes sense. If we're looking to do this, you know, if council decides that this is the way we want to go, then, you know, we get a more serious look at it and cost, especially if Jerry and his Cracker Jack team of builders can come up with something that looks real nice.
I can do anything.
okay.
That's right.
I think right now they're looking whether or not you guys want to approve to do it, is the question.
Well, we're asking if it makes sense. If it makes sense, then we'll come back with better numbers, or numbers. I mean, we had some numbers that we thought were on the high side if we went out, you know, put a bid out. So if Public Works can build it, we think the number will come in acceptable. But again, we'll come back. We just wanted to make sure that it was something that you have an interest in.
I like the idea, Jeff. I think it's a good idea. We can put information up on there, you know, for a variety of things. And the other idea about perhaps thanking people that had something to do with,
I
you
think-
know, getting the park done, I think that's another great idea.
Which was on the original sign, which in the front that was actually taken down. And I think, you know, like, and, you know, Mr. Gonzalez, the current council, you know, the council that was involved was actually going forward with the park. Like, if you notice, the freeholders are on this one. I know every park that we have, you have also, like, Kenny Johnson's on another park. You have, you know, Deluzio on the field. We're gonna have Carly Lloyd, I believe, on the football field. So it would be nice if the people that actually put this thing together were recognized on one side with maybe a map and trails, and then have the donations on the other side.
I like the idea of the kiosk. You know me, I don't like names, but I won't fight that, that's okay. But I don't think it should be half the size of the kiosk, the names.
I didn't say anything about
Okay.
the size of anything.
But you know, that would be fine. And I do like the idea of the kiosk. I think it'll make everything look neat. What I don't like on this picture, like the signs outside where it says that leash the dogs. I think if we do it, we should make it a nice size that we can put everything on there and maybe have it like enclosed. But I don't know, like in glass about vandalism, maybe, you know, but I guess we could talk about that later. But I do think it would be nice, because I know the three things that are left that have to be titled would be the snack bar. On the tables, they're going to actually put the name right on the picnic tables, and the donors. the donor memorial wall. Remember, we had talked about maybe building a little wall, and I know Bob Kennedy had come up with a, almost like a tile that you could etch, and we could make it and attach it to, or a plaque of some kind, because I think there are 4 donors that donated to the donor wall.
Won't that be on the same
That
as the
could be-
donation
yeah,
thing?
that
Because we
could
don't wanna
be on-
have, we don't wanna have
Right.
separate walls all
No,
over.
no, so I think that a kiosk would take care of all of that.
Yeah, so it sounds to me like we're in favor of proceeding and letting Jeff and Jerry and Jim come back to us with some proposed designs and proposed costs and go from there. You know, like anything else, if you don't finish it, it doesn't look finished. And I think that will be a nice touch to finishing it, and as we utilize the park more and more, it'll be a benefit to all of us and may incent other donators to want to have their name up there.
What are we doing with this?
They do have, you know what I thought?
Oh, they
remember-
haven't?
Yeah, they haven't. Remember when we first started this, I think I just kind of came on council, you had a big aerial view of the park with where everything, I thought that, like something like that would be very nice to show where everything was and where potentially things will be. That would be
It's certainly-
kind of nice.
Kind of a you are here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Sure.
Mhm.
Sure. It's, you know,
Well, look at
it's really all marketing.
And then the fields are all on that, right? Field 1, 2, 3, 4, and the places for everything. And then I guess we'd have to add Jake's place, because that wasn't on the original. I don't think on it when we
Well,
first
when we
started.
design it, Patty, we'll design
Yeah.
it.
Well, that's what I was thinking, it
Okay.
looked pretty.
Yeah.
So,
Go ahead, Jake.
I think we're good. You have a
Is
question?
that, are you looking for like a kiosk where there's like interchangeable pamphlets and stuff like that, or like a monument sign where it's fixed? That's the question, I don't know, it seems like it's
So,
out there.
so it seems, you know, like this one has a combination. I think there are certain things that we would like to have permanent, and certain things that maybe need to be changed, almost like a bulletin board,
Yeah.
but, you know, and that's kind of a quaint old idea that people are gonna go there to look and see what's going on. And I don't know that happens much, but people who frequent the park, or people who are visitors that have never been to the park, this would be likely the place that they would arrive and look and say, oh, I didn't know that this was here, blah, blah, blah. But I don't know that this would be a running schedule that we would print and send Jerry down to post. I mean, have
Yeah.
someone get down and post a schedule.
Town crier.
Right.
Like the paper stuff, I think. it's
Yeah.
kind of done.
Yeah, some of this looks really nice,
Yeah.
some of it not so much.
Exactly.
So, you know, come, be creative. And so we're not looking for a monument sign similar to most monument signs. I think it would be kind of a permanent structure that would have some permanent information and some maybe that would be temporary. Make sense?
Yeah.
Good. Okay. Anybody else have anything with kiosks? No. Okay, so good. So we're on to our next topic, which is always an easy and quick discussion. And there are, you know, we have a brand new list of since we, knock wood, completed a whole bunch of Tier 1 and Tier 2 roads in the last couple of years. We have done we call this a total reassessment. And we have, I don't know how many millions of dollars in roads that you've given us the pleasure of considering. You know, I think we've talked about it ad nauseum that we'd like to. You have a handout for us?
I did.
You want to talk about it first, and then we'll.
Yeah, so I know we've been talking about this for a few months now. So I would say, looking at the list that was sent out, you know, it says Tier 1, Tier 2, but I would focus more on the cost of these roads. I know there's roads listed under Tier Wood that aren't in bad shape, but they're just small courts and they're attached to another road that's, you know, is in bad shape. So you wouldn't really do the big road and ignore the small court, like Drew Court and even Randall Court. Like if you're gonna do Antietam, you're most likely gonna do Randall Court because it's right there, as well as like Winmore. You're gonna do Winmore, you're gonna do Drew Court because it's such a small road and you're there. So the question it comes down to is, what you need to decide is how much you want to spend per year or the next year? And do you want us to kind of focus on a group of streets that are in the same area? Or just, me work with Jerry and pick the top 5 roads that meet your budget, or pick whatever top roads meet your budget and do them? Because we can do both. I would say over the last 5, 6 years, we've been kind of doing 1 road per area, 1 or 2 roads per area. We do get complaints from contractors that, it's hard to, you can't quantify the price, but they do say, if this was all locked together, you'd probably get a cheaper price, but we really can't quantify it. But the prices have been coming in good too. So for last year, we did 5 streets, 3 in like Tempe Chase, 2 in, the Brown Street, Main Street area, and, we're coming in under budget, and the bids came in lower than we originally, estimated, and we're coming in even lower than that. So you have some money savings there, but, we just need direction on, if you want to get started to like a kind of a blocking thing, or just, scattering things. So one thing I have in this handout is that if you did want to start like grouping the streets together, I tried to color coordinate, 5 groups of roads of what we would recommend you go for as far as, if you, did them together. You can easily swap out a road if you think, oh no, don't do this yellow, do that with orange, and then switching back and forth. This is just to give you an idea of, things we're thinking about.
I just give my share.
As far as like the top 5, 6 worst roads in town, I've been talking to Jerry about this. In no particular order, we're probably looking at Lichtenthal, which has been on the list for a long time. Front Street between Brown and Main Street, and I'm just going through my head. River Road is bad, especially down by the plant. River Drive is bad, especially down by the plant. Winmore is up there. Half of Antietam. That's kind of like the top 5, 6. Lytle too. Lytle is
Hartford.
Lytle, which is half in Riverside, half in Delran. Those are your kind of residential streets. Not on this list is Hartford Road, between Bridgeboro and Morristown. We left it off just because we always consider that not necessarily a road program road, but a DOT municipal aid road. You will need to spend money on that. The grants aren't going to cover the full amount. Right now for Hartford Road, as a little side, Hartford Road, you have about 200, just under 200,000. We have another grant in for that, which is going to be, we think it's going to come in around another 200,000. It's probably going to be around the 500,000 to 600,000 mark to do the full resurfacing that you need from Bridgeboro Road to Morristown. So you should keep that in your head that, it is going to recommend it for you budget that for 2018, whatever, because we're hoping by the time you do your budget, which is in like 2 months, I guess, or less, we have that second grant in, we know about it, because it was submitted about 2 months ago, and it usually takes 3 or 4 months for it to come out. So keep that in your mind. We have Hartford Road we got to deal with. You will need to spend your own money. The grants aren't going to cover it. And then we just need direction on how you want us to approach the road program list.
So the roads that you gave us now, Front, Lichtenthal, Lytle, Winmore, Antietam, and River, are the worst in town.
Front, Lichtenthal, Lytle,
Half of it.
Winmore, and half of Antietam, and River, yes.
But we didn't want to do any more half roads, right? We said that was it. Remember when we?
Yeah,
you might as well
yes,
do that.
correct.
Okay.
How much money?
That's the
All right.
first
Is it-
question I
is-
think you want to answer.
Yeah, that and the question, if we're doing an area or just
And-
doing the top 5. Or...
Yeah, okay, yeah, and then just so you know, the color groups are really in no particular order.
Yeah.
And you just tell me
Yes.
what group you want to finish. I would think like the yellow though would be at the end, and let me see, blue and orange and red are the top 3.
I think if you're going to group them, this is just my opinion, if you're going to group them, you're going to run into problems, because there's roads out there that are in bad shape, and you're going to be fixing roads that aren't in that bad shape because you're trying to group them with another road. There's roads out there that really need to be addressed, and you're going to skip over it because you want to group a road with another road and fix a road that really isn't in that bad shape as the road that really needs to be done.
Well, I'm going to tell you something. Out of the ones that were just mentioned, I think if you look at it, you have Lichtenthal, Lytle, you have Front,
Winmore.
and you have River that are in the same, on the same side of 130.
You look at,
So,
Greenwood by any chance?
Green one.
It was,
Yeah,
you talked
Over
about that
Chester,
last
just
month.
past the middle school.
Oh, I did. Yeah, I didn't think it was, I know there was one bad spot that was like a road opening. I didn't think the rest of it was too bad. I can,
But I'm just gonna tell you, I'm looking at the ones you mentioned, you have 4, and it's probably gonna be almost $1 million.
each group is around, so you have, so that all of tier 1 and tier 2, less Redstone Ridge, is about, like 5-6 million.
No, I understand that, but what I'm saying is, if we were to stay on one side of 130, what's that? We're talking your side.
Yeah, I never talk on the other
Okay,
side.
so that's not a bad thing.
So,
Yeah, but it's always on the other side.
Hey.
Go ahead.
let's stay focused.
Okay, so if you were to do those 4, at least it would be all on one side of 130, and there are 4 of the 5.5 that you mentioned. So. but-
So it looks like grouping the red and the blue, pretty much, with blue and then the red. You know, I'd like to hear from council, see what.
I just have one point that I brought up last month, is that we still have one road, that we have half a road that we didn't finish.
Which road is that?
That's Brown Street down by Simon Schuster. So if Front Street is, which it intersects with Front, I mean, it kind of makes sense that they would be together.
And
that's
Brown
one.
is in tier 2.
Can I ask, you said
That's the
that
last one that we did like half a road, and then we never
I'm
finished.
just trying to keep them together, and that was 4 of them, I was just looking real fast.
Sorry.
You understand what I was doing?
My thought process, Brown, I didn't think was that bad, to the point where it could wait to when we do Juanita, Juniata and Ithaca. And but up front is definitely bad.
I'm going by what these guys are ranking, Mike, I mean.
No, I
And
get
then
it, I get it, but you're doing like,
To do Juniata and Ithaca Court and Brown and Front on top of that, it was too big of a budget. You know, I try to keep them grouped over to a reasonable budget, so it's like each color coded group is around.
no, I understand, but I thought that that
It's
was.
it's a very hard thing to do.
Well, when
Everybody has a
finished
different.
roads, we started
So
first.
that's what I'm saying, anything's interchangeable.
But you're saying that, I thought, in my mind, my understanding was that if you did block them
Yeah.
closer to, like, group them, we would save money. But now you're saying maybe not that much?
No, what I'm saying is I can't quantify it.
You
Okay,
can't put a number on it.
yes, no, I know that, but is that the smarter way to do it? Or should we just take those 6 worst roads that you said and do them? And if we're not gonna save that much money, is it better to do the worst roads?
There's pros and cons to both approach.
Patty, if you're got
Yeah.
bad carpet in your dining room and your living room, and the dining room's worse, and the living room's pretty good, but you're gonna replace both at the same time, you don't have the money?
No,
Replace
not
one at a time.
yeah,
So why
right.
don't we do, I don't think we should block, put
You
a whole
can't, the one that
subsection
you've been,
section
But
of
that was the
town
whole
just
approach,
because.
now it's not the approach. I don't
you've been
understand
doing roads in select spots all over the place, so you can't just go right into it. You're kinda gonna have to gradually move over if you wanna do that, 'cause
To
you,
blocking.
yeah, 'cause,
So that was the point.
but if you
Okay.
don't wanna do that, I mean, it just, then
Well, it makes sense that right on Lichtenberg are basically.
at the same time, like, you know, you
Yeah.
kinda wanted to get, you
That's
wanna
why
go
I
try to.
said- That's what's like Brown in front of Richards. In
That's
fact,
what
you're gonna have to do.
Yes,
both.
but if there's-
Well, no, I agree with
He's
you.
trying
but
to
we
do the
just-
worst ones though.
Okay, we gotta,
Sorry.
wait a minute, stop. We have to have a conversation and not interrupt one another. So you know, I don't wanna be all formal Robert's rules, but let's take it one at a time and remain calm. If not, then I'll have to be a jerk.
Yes, Brown and Front are connected, and I definitely, I recognize that, but at the same time, you also have Juanita, Juniata, and Ithaca, and that whole section over there, and
Okay. and
they're going too. They're probably not there yet, but they're going too. And Brown, when we did Brown too, Brown was, say, 3 segments, Front, third, 5th, and then 5th to Baylor. But 3rd to Baylor was clearly done way earlier than, or last completed the condition of between 3rd and Baylor was way worse than it is between 3rd and Front. I'm only thinking because that was probably done more recent than what was the pre-existing condition. But I'm not saying it doesn't belong on a list and doesn't need to be planned, but, so there's a lot of product reworking we can do, or just a matter of picking an approach.
No, I understand, but it's
Well,
just.
can we look at this as and not that we can fund it for 2 years or whatever, but like you said, looking out further, if we took care of the worst roads, 6 worst roads, then could we make a secondary plan?
Whether you block them or not, I think you should plan all the roads for the next 5 years. So that's why you're not having this discussion every year. And we can
Yeah.
revisit it every year, just making sure that's still
I agree.
the order you're gonna go in, whether or not they're all connected to each other, whether or not it's still all over town. But, you know, it's easier to tell the residents, so everybody knows what to expect. You can tell utility companies, so they know what's getting done, so they can plan your improvements better. I just think you need a good, like, we need a good 5-year plan, it's just how you piece it out.
So Dan, go ahead.
I remember when we discussed the road program last year, and we said about grouping the roads together. I understand that, but Jim, if you can't quantify that for us, the reason we were looking to do that was we thought it would hopefully save money. Absent that, I think Jerry's point is well taken. The worst roads ought to be the roads that are done. If we start doing other roads that aren't as bad, I think we just open ourselves up to criticism from the residents. Why are we doing a road that really doesn't need it when there is a road that does?
But everybody thinks they're.
So, right, so and you're right, Ken.
Yeah, but
everybody thinks their
we're
road's the
relying
worst
on the
road.
professionals to
Yeah,
give us advice.
the only thing that, listen, there's pros and cons,
Sure.
I think both ways is right, the thing is like, Winmore and Tatum, and then there's two other cul-de-sacs and Pine Valley, those are the last 4 or 5 roads in all of that Tebby Chase section, so if you lived on that, how would you say, well, they did every road in my area, 90% of my roads, and now mine's not,
That's
I
right.
gotta wait 5 years for them to come around again, so, I don't know the right answer, all I can tell you is that there's different ways to do it, and I don't wanna.
So let me just, so that we stay on track. So really what we have to look at is there a way that we can get to the clustering? If we're premature with going there, then how do we get there without staying in the old way? We're trying to be more efficient, but, roads go bad and they don't go on our schedule. They go when they go.
I think if you, over the next 5 years, we just figure out how to do all of what's listed under the tier 1 and tier less redstone, and then once that's done, you're really kind of covering a whole developments, and then you can focus on, the Farmington Road area, the Sharrowvale area, and then we also eventually we got to hit a big. Stewart Avenue needs to be addressed eventually too, but that includes all sorts of drainage improvements. So that might be on a standalone non-road program project, like a massive drainage improvement project.
Yeah,
Conroe. Yeah, Conroe. Conroe would be the next municipal aid after Hartford.
Yeah.
Gary, I kind of have a question, I don't really know the answer to. Bids are coming in cheap, money is cheap, and it doesn't look like it's gonna be cheap for a whole lot longer. Where are we what's like a dollar value that we really look at?
That's what I was asking, that's what you need first.
I mean, if we're gonna do it, I think that it's kind of time to do as
we
much
can't
as
do
we
the
can.
whole thing. It's
No, but we do as much as we can while.
How much are we willing to allocate to roads this year?
Well, we allocated $1 million last year, correct?
Yeah, but wasn't that a 2 year?
$1.8 million.
Yeah.
And what?
Wasn't
Because
that right
last year you
away?
had the same discussion.
Wasn't that 2 years?
That money was cheap.
That was 2
Yeah, it was
years
2
of,
years.
2 years of road program.
Right.
2 years of road program for $1
And
million.
that $1.8 million didn't include the Hartford Road kind of stuff,
Exactly.
community developments, and things along those lines to come up later. So remember, and what Jim mentioned is you've already spent $200,000 if you get the second Hartford Road grant and you do Hartford Road. You're already gonna be $200,000 in
And
whatever you do this year.
And we are proposing to the county to take over Hartford Road. So I'm gonna tell you, that'll be required even for them to consider taking it over.
From
So,
Morristown down to Ops, we have to have it. done.
Right. That's what's in bad shape.
so that is gonna have to be a definite that we do get that grant.
So, really we recognize that all these roads are at various levels of need, and that we'd love to do these as a group. So, do we do bigger groups? We continue to be as aggressive as we've been. Ultimately, we know that debt service will become cumbersome. We have in our vision, and we've always planned for this, that in 2 years, this building is paid for, and the debt service reduces to compensate for the load we're putting on it now with all these roads. But there's a limit to that relief in debt service. So, but I still think we need to continue to do that. You know, in my discussions with neighbors and residents, you know, the ongoing issue is always taxes, and everybody pays taxes, including everyone at this table, except the people that don't live in Delran. But that they want to see their trash picked up, their leaves picked up, and their roads looking good. So, you know, without, you know, we've been real diligent about stabilizing taxes, without going crazy. You know, I suggest that we find a number that is palatable and something that we can work with, and then decide, you know, again, we have to, I think we're still kind of, you know, when you do a paint job, most of the job is prep. So we're preparing to get into this clustered approach, but we still have roads that are in desperate need of repair. So maybe that's, and I'm just putting a grist for the mill, that council looks at it and says, look, you know, we still need to get some of these really bad roads to finish. And Mike, to your point about the half-completed road, if the road, even though it's half done, is not in the top of the worst shape, then we need to put that in a can. That's such a long road. That's like 3 roads. And there's already the seam, and we're gonna have the seam forever. But if there are roads that are desperately bad, maybe we need to look at them. We get to the point where we can start to say, okay, let's finish this cluster, let's finish this cluster. I'm sure it'll be more reasonable. And at some point, they're all gonna be paved, and like bridge painting, we'll be starting on the ones that we did 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, what if Lichtenthal and Lytle are among the worst? Is there anything else? And it looks like there are 2 blue and then the Winmore and Antietam, but you have a couple of like orange. Could you put the orange off, like they're all look like Tempe Chase area? Could you put those off to the second year and do like front Lichtenthal, Lytle, and maybe, I don't know, and
Well,
because
when
when
you
you,
left, if you didn't do Pine Valley, you know, leave that off, and then when you come back and
Yes.
do Pine Valley, then hit the 2 courts.
that's what I'm thinking. If you did Pine Valley, then you could do Randall and Drew. So leave, and,
Well, we've got all the yellow and green up here.
Well,
Just,
well,
that's
but
all
they're
tier
not,
one.
they're not the 6 worst. I'm just going off the 6 worst roads.
Yeah.
Front, Lichtenthal, Lytle,
Oh.
Winmore, Antietam, and River. They're the ones, the 6 worst. So my thought was, go off those 6 worst roads, if we have to get them done first, in the next 2 years, see, so if we can put the 6 worst, like 3 this year and 3 next year, and can we add then lesser worst roads to the worst roads? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. The only thing I do gotta bring up about
Well-
River Drive is that the county has come to us about doing the trail, which will disturb the road right in front of the plant. Now, I have no idea when that's gonna happen, and the road's in bad, you have to maintain the road. You just have to keep that in your mind, from Norman down, yeah, if that happens, you know, if from Norman to Alden, they're gonna be tearing it up completely.
I think if we're gonna.
But that might not be enough for them to hold on.
I think if you're gonna end up breaking it up, and you're not gonna worry about jumping around a little bit, I think you just do like Jerry said, do the important ones that need to be done.
What,
But
That's what Patty's saying.
Yeah.
if you don't mind me asking what, because I, obviously can't say, but what's the total for those 6, is it 6 roads?
Jeff and I were trying to do that.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's just
River,
not-
River's expensive. Now,
Really?
and another thing I wanna say, you see, all these say reconstruct here, that's because we still haven't got the cores in. The cores tell us that we need to do reconstruct or
And then you have
resurface,
to add Hartford to that?
and you have to add Hartford to that. So automatically take 200 off of Hartford.
it's like 1.4.
Now, Jim, are any of these speculation on if they're actually reconstruct of this
I
stuff?
think,
Can you speculate?
The newer the road, the more, less likely we'll need to reconstruct.
Of those 6?
I don't know, of
All-
those 6,
I mean, if you don't know, that's fine.
yeah, I know
Just in a
like the
few
dolls
words.
reconstruct.
Okay.
I don't think that.
We'll just assume they're all
They're
reconstructed.
60 years old.
Yeah.
So, what is the implication with Lidle?
When,
Do we have to get cooperation from Riverside and ask for them to contribute, because their road program is usually next to nothing?
You're probably gonna get nothing.
Next to nothing, or nothing at all?
Usually,
Paved to the township line.
Yeah.
Exactly, that's what you'd have to
Is it a clean line? Because I thought it angled.
It's an angle, just like Greenwood is, it's like
Yeah.
a diagonal across the street.
we haven't found one road in the Winmore neighborhood where you could get away with resurfacing.
Yeah.
But Greenbrier was like 7 inches of pavement. And so that one, we only had to resurface. Forge Road, we thought we really had to reconstruct, but that we ended up just having to resurface. So because as you go closer to Route 130, it looks like the newer roads, that's when they put in the full base course and top course, so. Main Street, we had to reconstruct. But then the thing about Drexel and Main Street, we got away with, we didn't really have to do the full aggregate underneath, so that side of town you kind of stay really on.
Jeff, I have a question about the, okay, just to make sure that my timeline is right. If these roads were in the 2018 budget, we're looking at construction end of 2018, beginning of 2019, is that?
If we move on it.
But if, say we moved as fast as we did, we got it done like in the fall of 2018. When does that, when do we actually make the payment? When do we start where it's borrowed money now and we're paying off?
It really depends on whether or not you're gonna do notes in the beginning, and I think, and we'll be meeting with the mayor and then with you guys on the budget, but I think that this year that the CFO is recommending that we go to permanent financing. So, on all the notes that we have outstanding now, because.
But this wouldn't be would it be part of that, or could be part of it?
It depends on, I'm guessing based on the timing that this wouldn't hit it, is that we probably, this would not make it in time for that permanent financing.
So it would be held as a note and then would
It'd
eventually
be held
be
as a
permanent
note,
later.
and then, you can pay it off over time as a note. If the notes remain cheap, that's something that's always an option as well.
Now, but if it was to move under permanent financing, how does that correspond with the payments on the building here? Would they overlap for a period of time?
We're trying to dovetail them so the payments, the permanent financing kicks in when this is paid off, when the building is paid off on that bond.
Because I guess it's about trying to fund it. So if we'd be losing one, gaining another.
Yeah.
Because I'm kind of inclined, and I don't know how anybody else feels, but, what we have now is, low petroleum price, which is directly affected with blacktop. Bids are coming in really low. Money is going the other direction. I say we do that list of 6 as part of the budget. I don't think we're going to get a better price or better conditions than if,
We said they're going from top to bottom, front, Lichtenthal, Lidle,
Antietam, and River. Now, why?
But River, is a problem. I have no problem. Do we have Norman there, though?
Yeah, that's what I don't understand, because why do you have River and you have Antietam and half, but yet all these are in tier 1? and yet
River's
these
bad.
are worse.
The reason why River was in tier 2 is because the road is bad, but there's limited volume, and there's a lot of unknown, and there's potential improvements.
you see, that's a part of
Norman,
it.
and Norman, is Norman bad?
Norman's bad too. Norman is probably worse than River as far as physical condition.
But you feel Norman's not as important because of,
I think it's more important, that's why it's in tier 1, because it's the main thoroughfare from
okay, so why are we considering Norman then instead of River Road?
We should do both. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's,
but if you were picking one.
Right, that's exactly right.
All right, so let's
if I had to pick one, Norman.
Okay, then get off
Tyler,
the River
what did
Well,
you have to say?
I'm okay with, I agree with Ken then, because if
Yes.
River Drive is gonna, there's potential for these people to come in a year and mess with it. I mean, why not go with something
I mean,
that's
what we
less
could,
suitable to that?
That's what I was
Worse.
trying to say.
and if we're gonna do Norman, we could do some patchwork on River Road. That's not a full reconstruct, but at least do some milling and overlay to buy us some time.
And what does that do if we substituted that out?
To do the top
To be
six.
To do Norman as a substitute for River.
We had them around the same price.
So it's a little more, actually, it's 60,000 more.
Yeah, but the number for Lytle on here is the full length, so half of that road though is actually river frontage.
Why don't we just, as my
So let me
suggestion, why
just-
don't we just do Lytle, Lichtenthal, and Norman? And that puts us at about a mil. And we stop for that.
I think you should at least pick one more as a deletion.
Okay, maybe it's deletion, but I'm just saying, those three are at least on the other side.
And I'm not,
Usually we do less roads than last year.
And there are three of, I mean, are we gonna go overboard again? We did it
That's
on
the
1
way
8. Well,
Well, it was 1/8, but it was 2 years.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
we did, you know, it was a 16 and 17 road program combined, and that was because we had an accelerated conversation, and Jim was good enough, Jim and Jeff worked together to make sure that that happened, and it was done. It was great.
Yeah,
So,
we also tossing tax.
so, you know, there's some serious number crunching that has to go on. I think what I think I'm hearing is that we want to continue to be aggressive, we want to do the right thing. It sounds like, from the conversation that I'm listening to, is that we're not yet ready to go straight grouping, but that we're still kind of in the prep phase, and we want to do the ones that are bad. Now, the problem with that is that these roads are outside, and others will go bad. So, you know, I think what we need to do is get it as close to ready to go, and then when we're in a position where we can say we're gonna do 5 in a cluster and maybe one outlier, because we're always gonna have that. If you recall, Ford Road blew up in one winter. Just went from not so bad to, you know. Parry too. Parry did the same thing. It started the Alligator, and then it just blew apart. And those are the ones, that we have to be prepared to do. But you know, I don't know that we'll ever get. This is again, I referenced the painting the bridge. We're going to be at the point. We're never going to be at the point where they're all done, and we can take 5 or 6 years off. So we have to do it. We have to maintain it. And the only thing we get by not being aggressive is get behind again.
Right, and I just want to make, it's Front, Lichtenthal, Lytle, Norman, Winmore, and Teton. They would be the worst roads right now.
That's what Jim is telling us.
That's a little under 1/8.
That's a little
But that's
under
1
1/8
year.
goes.
That's right.
And you got to 200.
With Hartford.
That's not with Hartford.
So it's
Hartford's
2.
2 million.
It's an even 2.
Yeah, like you told me, this last 1.8 that we just approved, and the impact is going to cause an increase in taxes, correct?
No, what I said is you have debt service that has been mounting, and what I just explained is that you're gonna have to go to permanent financing, and when you pay it back, you're gonna see an increase.
Okay.
Right, Unless we
Just everybody realize
can
that.
dovetail it with.
So
Can we dovetail with this? I guess would be the question
Well,
or
that's
we'll
what
have that
we're
discussion.
looking at this year, and one of the reasons I can't answer it is because that before, and it depends on who the director of the Division of Local Government Services is, but, I'm trying to think what program it was. We came in here before, when we put the municipal building in, we had the same situation where we had a bunch of debt services that was about to go off. And when we purchased the building, obviously, we were gonna have debt service coming on. We went to the division and said, can we have 2 years of interest only so that we can dovetail it, not have a big increase? The director of Division of Government Service has to approve that if you go interest only. It was approved. Now, there was a director a couple of years ago that would not approve any of those type of non-conforming bond issues. My understanding is that's not the case anymore, but I can't answer it unless, when we sit down, put it together, see if it'll work in terms of dovetailing. Even if we go out the bond now, it's not coming. First payments won't be due until 2019 if we do it at the end of the year, which is, I think, what we're looking at. It may be 2020. So.
And the debt service on the building ends in 2000.
It drops, but it's either 20 or 21.
So if we do Lichtenthal, Lytle, and Norman, you said you want to do a 5-year.
21 years.
So can we, all right, so if we do these 3, can we look at taking this top 6 again, so next year, it looks like Winmore and Antietam are, so would that be, like, if we want to plan out for 5 years, not that it's going to be set, but could we then work off of Winmore and Antietam and Front?
I think you'd have to look at it next year and see how.
But Jim
It
just
comes,
said,
again, it all comes down to how much money you can spend each year.
Right, and also the
And then
condition.
from there, you plan out how long it's gonna, how many years it's gonna take.
Well, we
to do
can
the
say, yeah, those are the ones next, but
can we kind of reorder them, or you don't
You know,
want to do that?
you know, so here's the, it's kind of like saying, I'm gonna buy all the winter clothes for my children for the next 5 years. But you don't know how big they're gonna grow. So if you buy them, and you say, well, this year it's a size 6, next year it's an 8, and next year it's a 10, then we're good, except that if they have a growth spurt and they go from 6 to 10, then we just wasted money on 8. It's in motion. So that's the difficult. I think we all agree that going to a clustered approach will be more cost effective. But I think we're still, unfortunately, catching up. I mean, we're still getting to the point where I don't think they were aggressive enough in the past. You know, they did roads, certainly, but, you know, there was a lot of development back in the 60s and 70s that are all now happening. So once we get them all done, then guess what? The Grand and Summerhill are gonna start falling apart. But they won't be as big as the whole rest of the town. And then, once they're fixed, Forest Hills and Water's Edge will fall apart. You know, it's just a matter of, we just gotta look at this as, we're just gonna nip away at it as we go. How big a nip we take is really up to each council each year, I think. You know, I'd love to get the 6th worst, but if we have to get the 5 worst, then maybe we have to really get down to what can we do. These are all reconstruct prices. You have all reconstruct prices. So if it's at 1.8, well, are all the roads reconstruct?
Probably not.
Okay, so if we're at 1.8 or 2 with the Hartford Road add-on, and there's no opportunity to wait 1 more year for Hartford Road to try to get another 2, is there?
No, I wouldn't recommend it, just because then there's, it doesn't look good not to spend the grant money.
Gotcha.
Do you need the core, or is that the next step?
For Hartford?
No,
for
for all
these roads.
We ordered the quarters back in October, they haven't been delivered yet. I know half of them was done a week before Thanksgiving, they promised us at least a half report. And, you know, I don't know if the holidays, the weather, or, you know, this time of year, you get a lot of jobs completed, that, a lot of like DOT funded jobs, you have to core them, and they're kind of more, they kind of get priority over when we just do it for design purposes. So, but by the end, we should have them soon, but.
So really, it's still in our best interest to wait till you have them, so we know really what we're looking at. We're kind of like shooting in the dark now, right? Everything is the worst it could be.
Well, I would just say you just plan another road as a, you know, what you do to, if the earlier roads save
The
money.
numbers can just get better, essentially.
Yeah, it's only gonna get better.
It's only gonna get, yeah.
Right,
But I
so,
never, like, do you know how many we want to put on that list?
and Jim typically kind of bids them high so that we decide what we're gonna do, and we add enough for deletion. And, you know, we've had the opportunity quite a bit in the last couple of years to say, geez, you know, we can do them all, because the prices have been coming in, right? And knock wood, petroleum is still at a low, and, you know, I watch what the Fed's doing every day practically, and, you know, they're increasing, but it's not that much and not that fast. So,
Okay, so which ones are we gonna pick?
well, are we picking the roads tonight, or are we just picking a budget?
It's entirely up to you. I was asked that you wanted to have the discussion because last year we did this early. The only
Yeah.
way that you can get the project done in 18 is if you get pretty much introducing the ordinance in January. I mean,
Okay.
you won't be introducing an ordinance in December because we don't have any more meetings, and you can't introduce an ordinance in 1 month and adopt it in the next year anyway, so we'll be looking at January. So it depends on how quickly you want to move.
Yeah, this is it. We don't have
Oh,
any meetings
okay.
for every year.
So, I was gonna come and have a meeting. I come by myself. So,
Can't tell us, let us know.
So, I think what we need to do, we're gonna have the public meeting on the first Tuesday, right? Yeah, the second. And then on that second one, we need to have all this core information so that we can get a real number. But right now, we're back to what do we have an appetite to put towards roads?
These top
Yeah.
6 that you're talking about, I highly doubt you're gonna be able to core that. I mean, you're gonna need to not reconstruct that. The remaining 14, 15, you'll probably be able to get away with resurfacing on some of those.
So first come up with.
But, yeah, I mean, we're, hopefully by the 9th, we should have that in, and we'll give an ultimatum, but
The 9th?
Can we want
Which is
the
that
tax
workshop?
impact, yeah.
Oh, by the 9th, okay. We'll have them before then.
I can give you a refined list.
Right.
Why don't you come up with a figure, maybe, and then we can come up with 3 or 4, and you have the 4 as a backup. We can always talk about it, at least give them an idea, because I guess it's getting to that, it's up to you. I'm just telling you, that's what I would recommend.
We don't know the tax impact yet, clearly, right, until
Right.
we figure out that finance.
Well, I mean,
That's
Jeff
important.
Yeah,
always,
see, that's it.
Jeff can always give us a rough estimate of what it would be in debt service and how that would impact the tax rate. But, if we can, as we've discussed, if we can dovetail that into, or do temporary bonding, bond anticipation notes until we get to the point where we're going permanent bonding. And, maybe Jeff can, I don't want to put you on the spot, so maybe you can get back to us on, what would the debt service, how much would that go down? And how much do we already have in additional debt service to come on from our aggressive road program so far? And then we see if there's any wiggle room. And if we say, well, we can do 2 million, but that, and then the next batch we'll be looking at either a tax increase, or we look at what we can do alternatively to try to keep that from happening. That's the big nut of debt service. But there are other things that come off, each year. I think we get, little incremental bonding that comes off this debt service. And Jeff has always been real good at keeping us posted on that. So,
I think I know what you want from a financial standpoint, and then you want scenarios if you do 2 million, if you do 1 million,
Yeah.
something along those lines.
Yeah.
I would say, I'm just we're just doing kind of a range, maybe a 1, a 1.5, a 2.
Yeah.
And see, if we can sneak in an extra 1 and 1.5, or an extra 2, maybe they'll come in under, and we won't actually do that. This is difficult.
No, but then the other thing is, you could also now, you can select, let's say, 3 or 4 roads, and then based upon what he does, you make your determination.
Yeah,
At least you have it done already.
We have the roads selected at
Yeah, you
least.
do the top,
Exactly.
top 6. and
Yeah,
you
how
get
much
in
is
there.
involved
Yeah.
in this possible transfer of notes to
You know what I'm
bonds?
saying?
What do you mean?
Like, what's the total
It's up to you.
amount?
Just make a recommendation.
Right offhand, I don't know. I think the total indebtedness is around 15 million, but I don't know, some of that might be coming off the books before then.
It's a little over 10.
I know it's over 10.
So, Ken, to answer your question, the reason that I don't have a sense of urgency for picking exactly which ones they are, I think that if we say at 1 million, we can get these 3 or these 5, or at 1.5 million, we could do these 5 or these 8, then I think, in my mind, that's going to be how we decide it. But, to pick it now, and then have to go back and readjust, let's take this incrementally, I think. I don't, and council, help me if I'm wrong, but, if we say, look, this is what this will come up with, boom, we'll be here, these will be these options, or these options, and maybe we have to juggle those 6, and maybe 4 of them get done, or maybe 5 of them get done. But, we're obviously focused on these 6 right now, but which ones go exactly is going to depend on how the numbers work. So let's let the numbers work, and then we'll make the call. And we can make the call, Jeff, we can make the call on which ones get done and introduce the ordinance on the same night. Is that possible? No, okay. So we need to do that. We have 2 work sessions in January, so we just have to introduce the ordinance on the first work session, or the second work session. Sounds like to me.
You're the guy with the timing on the actual bids and going and getting the road construction, but.
Get it done.
So what I'm saying, we have no more work sessions in December. We have a public meeting, and then we have work session 1. If we get all the information, we can't make the determination until work session 1. Are you saying that we can't introduce on work session?
That's
Okay, but we can on work session 2.
Correct.
Would that keep us on track for maybe getting these done in 2018? Yes.
It would.
Yes.
It's such a strong yes for a maybe question. I love that. That's why I put it that way, Jim. So I think we need to do that. We need to come up with what it is exactly that we can get at 1, 1.5, and 2. And, you know, if that's where we're going, then let's hope we get cheap money and great bids. You know, it doesn't hurt while the numbers are low, do all we can. And it may mean that one year we do 800,000 or 700,000 because the prices are up. Excuse me.
If this works out and you could introduce on the 23rd, which is the 4th Tuesday of January, which is your second work session, right? Because of the calendar, there's actually 2 weeks between the 23rd and the 6th, which would be your public meeting. Is that, between the 23rd and the 6th, is that, can you have the public hearing within those 2 weeks?
10 days after we advertise.
It would just help speed things up, you know? And I know you like to do things like this at the public hearing, right?
We do, but if it means that we're gonna lose 6 months, I think that we'd be willing to do at least one of the hearings.
It's a little premature to talk about the calendar, but it is what it is, you know, it's.
So let's do, I think, council, we all agree that it worked out well last year. Let's stay on track and try to keep keep the momentum that we have. Everybody's good with that? Does that sound like a plan? Or no? Patty?
I just, in my mind, I would have preferred to block the roads today, okay, if it's 1 million, we do these 3, if it's 1.5, we do these 4, if it's 2 million, we do these 5. But if you want to wait, I mean, it doesn't matter. I just thought we'd have a little bit of, like, so that we don't go back again and say, well, is it going to be Lichtenthal, is it going to be Winmore, is it going to be, like, can we agree Lichtenthal, Lytle, and Norman? Like, can we agree on anything? Like, any of the roads at this point? So that when we come back, we'll know the money, or do you just want to think about it and wait?
Well, let's, so if we were to do that and say, these 4 and these 2 as deletion items, could we then introduce on the first work session? I'm not trying to.
The only way you're gonna be able to introduce, yeah, the only way you're gonna be able to introduce it is if we have an ordinance done by the bond council that spells out the specific roads that are gonna be done.
So we can't do it the first work session anyway. We don't lose any time. I understand it's frustrating.
I got enough tonight, and I think we'll go enough tonight where we can
We
come
know
back.
what we're kind of doing.
I heard the same roads over and over, you know.
Yeah.
I'm not being, like, I think we come back with a better plan for you once, and then we'll have hopefully more information to give you better refined quotes. I think I kind of misspoke too before. I figured Front Street we might have to resurface now that I think about it.
You know what I would recommend, Jim, if you're taking it back? You can take it back, you know, the 6 that were discussed. Maybe you can lay out little strategies of if you did these and it's sorted in this type of area versus if you want to do the most important ones that are the worst, it could be this clustered and you just have that ready for it. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah, and
Color coding, with
Let's go
numbers.
with the
Well,
numbers.
this is very
I
good.
minored in Excel and color coding.
I can see that. I can see your engineering degree has come out.
I'll keep you busy during that week.
Knowing some people in the room's affection for Excel. So, okay, so we have a plan, we're moving forward, you're on point, you know what you're doing? Okay. All right, so let's go to our final item on the agenda, and this is the national purchasing contract for the sports lighting. Jeff, why don't you give us your summation of your memo?
Yes, we have a grant for sports lighting out at Community Park for 2 of the fields. And we could go out to bid on those, which is what we did the last time. However, there was a feeling that we're going to get, we could get the same vendor with a national contract. The vendor must go, won the last bid, and has a national contract with this Keystone Purchasing Network that we're looking at, which is basically it was started by a number of school boards in Pennsylvania as a cooperative purchasing system, and the state of New Jersey has recognized national contracts and spelled out a process that you have to follow under its local finance notice 2012-10. It spells out all of the steps that you have to take if you want to use a national contract. And essentially, there's some items that we have to go through with respect to the process. They have provided a number of pieces of paperwork already. We reached out to them and said, we want your business registration license, all the things that you would need if you were to submit a bid, all that, that information's already been provided to us. And then one of the next steps, one of the difficult steps is we have to somehow try to prove that by not bidding it, but going through the national contract, that we will save money. And it's not as easy unless you can find something that was bid out identically to what you're doing.
It's not that we're not bidding it. It was bid.
It was
national.
Yes, correct. We're not bidding it.
We're not bidding it locally.
Yes, it has. That's one of the criteria. It has to have been bid out, which it has been by a national organization. The engineer has provided an engineering estimate of $180,000 for the work. The national bid is $178,000 from the same lighting company. Either way, we're going to end up. The feeling is that if we bid it out, more than likely it's going to be more expensive than buying it under the national contract. And the only reason I'm going into depth on this is we buy out of state contracts all the time, but we have not purchased out of national contracts up till now. But we're recommending that we go through that. There are some steps that we have to take if you're okay with it, including advertising in the newspaper that it's our intention to do so, advertise the amount, put it on our website. That would include the title, the contract, if a contract had a link to it, things along those lines. And just want to make sure that you're comfortable with it when you do it, and then we can come back to you with additional information on the contract for you to authorize.
Is this a case where you know, if there's going to be a savings, hopefully significant, I mean, it only makes sense unless the cost to go through the hoops and do all the advertising creates enough of an expense that it's a wash and it just makes it more difficult.
We think the bidding hoops, there are hoops, the bidding hoops are probably more severe in terms of the hoops that you have to take in terms of the cost involved and the risk of where that bid's going to come out, where we know this is within our budget and it's within the engineer's estimate.
It's completely covered by the grant.
It's a no-brainer then.
It's a no-brainer.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't, does anybody disagree with that? Well, let's just say.
And we confirmed, it's a Burlington County Park grant. We confirmed with them that they have no problem with the process.
Yeah. Good. So, having completed the agenda items, let's go round of the room. Ladies first. So, Jamie, nothing for us this evening. Thank you very much. Terry, you have anything for us tonight?
I do.
Oh, I knew you did. You had a portfolio. I knew we were in trouble.
First off, grouping the streets, roads versus picking out the most important ones. I understand what you want to do and you want to group them all, but I feel it's not the way to go. I think what happens is, and if anybody sat in on any of these depositions that you got to go to when you go to court, when they're taking you to court because somebody slipped and fell, is they want to know, and all this ends up on the table, and everybody's, and all the lawyers have it, and they come in and they get it, and they look at everything and they said, you know, you picked these 10 roads, and you only did 5. Why did you do 5? Well, that's all we had the money for. Well, that's understandable, and they agree with that, and that's fine. But if you say, you know, you did 5, and then you did this road over here that wasn't even on the tier 2, and you came in, why did you do that road when this road was worse? It puts us in a position where we're fixing a road that we're trying to, because they don't want to hear you say, because we were trying to save money. This road here was worse, where somebody got hurt on or something. I just want you to know that these things come up, and these are questions that have to be answered. And when they look back on this and they say, you know, well, that road was obviously worse, but they went this road because they wanted to save money, it turns into, you know, a nightmare trying to explain it. You understand what I'm saying? You don't, Jim?
I do, you know, it comes down to, you know, the thought process, but you're not saying you're just doing this road because it's not worse, you're doing it because it's directly connected to where you're doing all the other work, so, and that's.
But if you got
something
another
that
street
happens.
that's worse,
To define down the street though, I mean, it's either not down the street or completely on the other side of town where the contractor has completely remobilized, there's a justification.
whatever, I just wanted to bring that to your attention. The other thing I had, I'm not done yet, Karen. The other thing is, after Christmas, as you know, with the lights and everything, there were mass chaos with the lights that we got for the Christmas tree. They were, you know, somebody donated them and they didn't last, they wouldn't stay lit, they were a problem. So I wanted to buy nice Christmas LED lights, and what I thought was, when they go on sale after Christmas, I will, you know, go to Home Depot or whatever and see what I can get with whatever money I have in my budget, if I have enough money to get it, to get 2,000 lights. I say it would take 2,000. The big question is, do we want white or do we want color?
Well, we had color on there now.
Yeah, we had color.
It looked pretty nice.
I'm a fan of white.
Hold it
but-
up.
I'll have to see where I got the money. It's not, I'm not sure that it's gonna
Just
happen,
sort of tie
but,
it to that, so at least, you know.
yeah, like, wherever I got it, but.
You know, I think,
I don't want to hear that.
anybody, if we asked 15 people, we'd get 15 different
I'm not
opposing.
I'm not voting, so that's up to you.
This falls under the category of questions that shouldn't take that much time, they
That will
usually
take-
take way.
Why don't you bring it to, let RAC decide?
To the top white and the bottom.
Yeah, there you go.
How about as an idea, because we're, you know, this is kind of, you know, chocolate or vanilla. We'll never get a consensus. How about if you look at them and on your honor, see what's a better deal? If you get.
How many, if you get 2,000 of
If you get
which
2,000 white ones that are a deal, then do white.
End of the
If they're
year,
the same.
end of the year, you're gonna get it.
But maybe you'd only get 1,800 colored and 2,000 white, so what's left over,
Yes, 4 10-year-olds.
Why did this get pushed back on me?
And the white strand on the
'Cause you
bottom
brought
will
it
be
up.
white.
You get there, and they're the same price,
Should we
you
just say
flip the
white?
damn coin
Just white.
and pick.
I don't know, I thought the tree looked nice in
Tree
color.
looked nice.
I think
yeah,
it's a
it
great
did look
job.
pretty in color, but I was like, white, but it did
Yeah.
look pretty in
You
color.
can put it to the RAC.
The RAC owns the tree, let them.
Exactly, that's correct.
I think we own the tree.
Well, you know,
I'd
they
like-
run the
That's their
tree.
All right,
function,
give me my
let them
quarterback.
decide.
You're not gonna make
The
it.
RAC.
Yeah, it's an RAC function.
I hope the tree's alive next year.
You take it away from me.
Oh, don't even start with me
Let
on
them
that.
decide.
Are your
So-
palm
I'll talk
trees
to
alive?
Jeff.
Yes.
It'll end up
So-
being you guys,
You know, that's a good idea. This is not something that we have to decide as a government. Let's let the RAC, it's their project, for goodness sakes.
Well, the only thing is, I do appreciate Jerry coming to this. I think the idea of buying them after the holiday,
Absolutely.
you know, you're gonna get a deal on them, so.
So, you know.
But he wasn't waiting, he's buying it tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's what he said.
I'd like to see a report of at least 15.
I'll see what they
No,
got.
just see what,
Lowe's, Home
there's
Depot,
Lowe's, Home
Riverton.
Depot, Riverton, where else?
Oh, yeah,
They call it.
crafts.
Or shop online.
Next question was, do I get paid every time?
Negative. I can answer that one without consultation. Okay.
I'm done.
Is there anything else, Jerry?
That's all I have.
All right. Well, thank you for bringing that to our attention about the lawsuits 3 years after our discussion started on this.
I'm gonna jump in there.
Okay, well, that's all right.
Without giving up too much, one lawsuit we had for trip and fall was a street that was on the list before, then got paved after. And one of the other ones, trip and fall that we're getting sued for, has never been on the list, so. It's all it takes is a pothole.
Exactly, it could be any little thing, it doesn't even matter.
But I've been in those depositions too, so I know what he's talking about.
Well, okay. Jeff, you have anything for us tonight?
Just want to report one thing is I brought at the last work session, I think, issue of migrating over the Office 365 email and looking at it. I have sufficient funds in this year's budget to make that transition, so I just want to report that that's what we'd like to do, so that we're not budgeting it next year. It eases some of the pressure off of next year's budget to move that, and that'll give us some of the things we need in terms of archiving our emails and bringing us into compliance with emails that have to be kept on our OPRA requirements and things along those lines. So just an update.
It also should eliminate all the, mailboxes full.
Yes.
I mean, we're managing that, in a one-off opportunity. The police are on here as well, so that'll all migrate over. Just make sure that, Jeff, we talked about this, just make sure that migration is part of the package, whatever you do.
If we're gonna talk about the Microsoft full bit, the mailbox full bit, I'm gonna tell you, I'm not getting them still, but yet I get other emails from everybody else. So I don't understand what the situation is with the townships. But I'm not getting township
So
emails.
you're not getting any township email. Well, it's because the email box, without getting too deep in the weeds here, the email box is the township email. So if it's full, the township email kicks out, regardless of what you get on any other email. It's your personal email, it's nothing to do with it.
No. My township email address gets email from everybody but the township.
Well, that's more of a reason to get that time.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm telling you.
Yeah, that's strange.
You ain't kidding.
Unless, if you ever, well, I don't know. The only way that would happen, in a course of business would be that the township domain name was put on a junk mail list in your account. I know that you wouldn't do that, and certainly we wouldn't do that intentionally. But if you ever said this is junk mail, and it registered the mail as, we have very serious email security at my work, and that's the only way. If you accidentally say, oh, I don't want any more emails from them, and you block the domain, and the domain happens to be gmail.com, then you've blocked every Gmail. It sounds like maybe we should look at, if you have delrantownship.org blocked, maybe inadvertently, somehow.
On its own.
Yeah, stuff happens.
The other thing I noticed, Gary, just so you know, is that when you get close to the limit, it starts blocking emails with attachments because of the size.
Yes, that does happen too.
Yeah, there's
That's not even
stuff.
this, yeah.
Getting a return email saying the mailbox is full.
No. And is the mailbox full?
No,
He says it's not.
I'm getting emails.
Doesn't matter if you're getting emails, if you're getting.
I'm getting emails on my township email address.
Right, so if you have, let's just use layman's term, if you have 500 megabytes left and an email that has an attachment that's 600 megabytes, it's going to say mailbox is full. But if you get one that's just text and it's 30 megabytes, it'll let that through. So it's full because that email will make it full, is over the limit. That's the only possibility.
Okay.
For the geeks
We'll
in the
look into
room,
it.
it makes sense.
Once we get it fixed, we don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
So that's a good reason to do that. Anything else, Jeff? No. Awesome, thank you. Jim, anything for us tonight?
Nothing other than probably gonna try to patch up the relationship with Jerry after this meeting. But, no, I mean, everything's still pretty much status quo. Working on to close out the road program with the contractor, just going over punches with them. And then the sidewalk, trying to get the next phase out to DOT, get the permit, yeah.
Great.
Jerry, maybe Jim could color code the tree.
Anybody have any questions for me? Again, something we're gonna go over tonight.
Thanks for that list, though, that was very helpful.
It gets us down the road a little bit.
Yeah,
No pun intended.
We're leaving here with good direction.
Yeah, good. Mr. Shultz, anything for us legally?
Nothing at this time. Thank you.
God, I love when you say that. That's good, because that means we're not spending money. So going around the table, reports from council, starting with Dan. Dan?
I'd like to thank the Delran seniors for their invitation to their Christmas party last night. It was a nice time. They're a nice group of people, and I'm one of them. So,
Yeah.
and that's all.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay, my goodness.
That's all.
Tyler?
No report. Thank you.
Mike?
Have a safe holiday.
Nice. Patty?
No, President, a question. Leaves. Someone called, they still have leaves in their backyard. How long are we going to?
Get them out.
Yeah, I know that, I told them to, but do you have any idea how long?
As long as the weather holds out.
Yeah.
Okay.
We always,
So the good rule of thumb is, get them out as soon as they
Yes.
can.
Mhm.
And Jerry and the guys they were picking up leaves. I saw them picking
The
up
truck.
leaves the morning of the storm. They were
Yes.
out trying to get them out of the way, which was
I saw
great.
that too, yeah.
But, I think if we don't say, if you don't give them a deadline, then they just wait until January, February.
Right.
So let's say ASAP.
Okay.
And, all the chatter on social media, of, I pay my taxes. And, that they, if you don't put them out, they're not gonna get picked up. Put them out. Put them out. I know there's more of the trees. I still have some on the trees. Just keep putting them out.
No, the person was very nice, but just,
Good.
they know whether to put them in bags or put them out.
No bags.
Right, I told them, okay.
Never bags.
Okay.
That's it? Okay, so I have just a couple of quick things. Did we reach out to the folks that own the private road behind the old PNC Bank / Mancini's about the pot? Yeah, could we check into that? I guess that's not something, I continue to get text messages from Mrs. Catherine Bone, who's always unhappy with me when I don't get things done. That's pretty well traveled because of all the businesses in there, and I was reminded of that recently. Heritage Square, just keep the heat on there. They fix stuff. That is the most haphazard, half fill in the blank, maintained parking lot. And
we go to them all the time.
I've never seen, I go to the post office practically every day.
No, so we go to the owners and
Yeah.
we get them all the time about it.
And finally, I'm going to ask for an interim meeting catering subcommittee, since Patty is not able to provide snacks. It's
I
now
promise by the
it's
new
now
year.
been 3 meetings,
Not
so
yet.
at that point, we have to reassign.
Yeah, I
um,
promise, the
okay.
next meeting, we
All
will
right,
have
so
goodies.
We're going to give you an extension.
Yes, John,
on the-
I'll have goodies, John.
On the committee.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I apologize.
That's my report. Ken?
Yeah, mine is really brief. I want to just, again, Jerry, thank you guys for the brining bit. I mean, I'm going to tell you, you notice the brining was done probably I would say a day or two probably before. And it was the first time that we've used it, and I'm going to tell you, it looked great on our roads. It like matched all the county roads and the state road. And it really is going to, I think, save a lot of money just on manpower alone, and also probably cutting down on salt a little bit. So I think it's a no-brainer, and I think the residents love it. So also, I just want to wish everybody a happy and healthy holiday. And that's pretty much it.
Thanks, Ken. Have a motion to go to public?
I'll make that motion.
Second. Give it to Tyler.
Tyler, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? All right, so we're in the public portion, everybody knows the rules, everybody's a regular. I will just go around the room, state your name and address for the record if you have a question or comment.
Tim, 205 Arch Street, Tim Weir, 205 Arch Street. Two, just questions. Jerry, could we get, colored in white, maybe do a candy cane thing on that? And then, Council President, can you clarify the next work session before the end of the year for me? What's the date on that?
Yeah, there is none.
He'll be here on.
Yeah.
I'll be here.
That's
Just me,
That's what
I'll be here,
Thank you.
looking for company. But that would have been the 26th, and we're not gonna do that.
Because we're not here on the township.
Right, the township building is closed, so we will return in full force on the 2nd with our reorg at 6:30, and then our public meeting at 7, and then our regular schedule continues from there. Most of the juggling goes away after the first of the year.
Very good. My thanks to the council and happy holidays.
That's all. Thanks, Tim. Bob, anything for us this evening?
Bob Gilbert, 75 Stewart Avenue, Delran. Two things real quick.
Mhm.
Anybody that knows a veteran, in the state of New Jersey, he is entitled to a $3,000 deduction off his state return. I have forms. Don't call me. I mean, you can call me, but, you know, make it on the weekend. If you know somebody, I got about 30 or 40 forms. All you got to do is you either fax your DD 214 to the state, you can email it, upload it, or you can go a snail mail, put it in an envelope and mail it to Trenton. They need it in there when you go to file your taxes, your state taxes. Number 2, we've got a new present from Vietnam for any veteran that was in Vietnam. Let them know this. I saw it in the paper the day before Thanksgiving, and my wife saw it on TV. She told me to come up and see it. It was on Fox News on Thanksgiving Day. There is now a new parasite for all Vietnam veterans that if you ate any type of fish, because you don't know if it was always cooked all the way, it can be dormant in your system for decades. I've already had a blood test done. It's come back negative. That's the first thing you have to do for your liver enzymes, and then you can go get a ultrasound of your liver to see if it's inflamed. There was a gentleman that didn't show any symptoms. He volunteered for the program just to do it. They found 2 cysts on his bile duct. They removed them. He's alive. But there was no pain. If you feel pain, it's too late. You are dead. I mean, it's cancer. Yeah, it's terminal cancer. But this little critter has stayed dormant. The parasite is fed off the enzymes off your liver and stuff. And now, 40-some years later, it says, hello, let's play ball. And the VA hasn't decided who's going to pay for it yet. So if you have insurance and you can get the blood test done and you can go get your liver ultrasound done, do it. Because the VA has because I talked to the VA, Kim, at our VVA meeting. They have no idea who's going to pay for it, when they're going to pay for it, or anything else. Have a Merry Christmas.
Oh, yes, Linda Gilbert, 75 Stewart Avenue. The thing about the puppies and the pet stores. I'm for all my animals are rescue animals, and I get it. But I can't see where we should tell a pet store what they can sell and what they cannot sell. Pet Plus, years ago, was selling purebred animals. If you're not mistaken, one of the puppies died is why they lost their license. Then they became a rescue place. If I'm not mistaken, a year or so ago, they had all their puppies taken away because of the conditions inside of Pet Plus, and now they've reopened. I just think if you're going to do it, you need to tell the whole township what you're going to do. But it's like me opening up a flower store, and you tell me not to sell roses. Like I said, all mine are rescues. I believe in rescue animals. I don't believe in the puppy mills. I don't know how to stop it. I wish this woman was here so I could talk to her more. I get it. I mean, I wish the puppy mills could be stopped. I mean, the state level can't even stop it. I don't know how the township levels just tell them they can't sell purebred puppies or buy from a retailer is going to help the problem, because the problem hasn't gone away all these years. I was one that went with Moose's Law. I mean, I was with Sissy and Rex when Moose died. So I get it. I mean, I really understand it. But I don't see where you can say, it's like you can't tell somebody you can't put a automotive place here, or you can't, I own the property and this is what I want to do with it. It's almost the same give and take. You know, you can't tell somebody you can't build something on their property. You shouldn't be able to tell somebody what they can sell on their property either.
Ms. Goer, one of the things that scares me about that is that even at the state level, they'll say that no, there's no part, you can't use any commercial breeders, but the breeders are allowed to sell to consumers directly anyway.
Right.
That doesn't prohibit it.
It doesn't stop it anyway. I mean, I know people like go up to Lancaster. We all know Lancaster is Puppy Mill City. And I know that. I know people that've gone up there and gotten puppies. You know, my rescue dog, I've got over $1,000 in him because he was a rescue, and before a year old, he's part German Shepherd, and we got hip dysplasia. So we got close to $1,000 in doggy water therapy. So yeah, I'm all for it, and I'm all for taking care of them. But I can't see where you should be able to tell somebody what kind of dog to buy, where to buy it, you know, and when the state level can't even control it.
Understood. Thank you. You were next.
You're next.
Are you here observing, or are you want to talk about?
Well, I did have something on my mind. My name is Michael Gorstein. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
I'm on 23 Cranberry Lane. And this is one of the few meetings I've attended, but I'm a new sort of attendee, you could say. Something I was curious about is if the township has ever explored maybe attracting outside groups that could perhaps support us with funding, for example, road projects. I know, for example, that there are some roads which they put up advertising, for instance, which can generate some revenue. If perhaps we could do or explore something similar to that, perhaps those advertisements or that revenue could support some of these projects so that it eases a little bit the taxpayer burden as well as budgets and so forth.
It's an interesting concept, and we've certainly used it in the park. I don't know what the legalities are for the roads. We actively, Jim is always applying for grants, and we've paved a number of roads in town, and we're in the process of paving one right now. There's community development block grants. There's all the different grants that, when Haynesville Road was paved in phases, but that was all through grants. And right now, Pheasant, what's the Pheasant Road?
Manor and Pheasant?
Manor and Pheasant. So they're actually in a particular socioeconomic section of town where we got a grant that would apply for them, we can pave those roads. So there are grants, certainly we're very aggressive with that. I don't know, if you'd like to drop a $250,000, we'll name a road to maybe Michael's Road.
Sure. Well,
Sounds good. I know you haven't, for goodness sakes.
of course I keep
But
it
no,
on
it's an
large
interesting
piggyback.
concept to do. I think we're gonna, would be something we'd have to consider. That'd be a little different from the norm, but it's an interesting way to raise money.
Well, I was inspired by it just to share with you because I noticed on 130, just across the street from Home Depot, there is,
highway?
yes, there is a large, I mean, it is a little bit of an aesthetic consideration, of course, but when you think of the sustainability of roads and that, as you were mentioning with the bridge example, how every
Right.
5 years you have to consider the road that you began with. I know that from a sustainability and environmental background, we usually have to consider like the life cycle of a system.
Right.
And wherever we start, we have to make sure that when it comes around again, that it has enough to continue. So
Right.
just.
So I don't know, what the options are available to us, and I'm not gonna really put our professionals on
Sure.
the hot seat for that. But maybe at some point you can get back to Jeff and let Jeff know. He'll let us know you're gonna be a regular. It'd be great to have you.
Sure.
And we'll see, at some point, we'll have some information, you remind us, and we'll have it. But I don't want to say, hey, what are the options available? That's
Oh, of course.
great. So good, thanks, Michael.
I'm
Yes.
Sylvia.
I know, Sylvia. Sylvia Wolf.
I live in the same address he lives. I just had an idea. One of those parks that we have, can we use it for a small farmer's market? Wouldn't that be beautiful to, instead of having to go to Centerton all the time, that we could have a Delran and we won't compete because we'll have it on a Sunday instead of a Saturday or maybe Friday or, on a day that's not Tuesday, so that people can come during the weekend or something?
So that there's, certainly we've had a farmer's market here at a time, kind of on an experimental basis. It is labor intensive, and there's really no budget for that. Typically that would fall under, I don't know, either RAC or Green Team, or probably RAC. And I know we're maxing them out. And there's so many rules and regs. I mean, we can't do it to make money, right? Is that right, Jeff? We can't really make money.
Essentially, you're not supposed to be there.
Right. So, I get it, we'd be bringing outside vendors into town.
Yeah.
What does that do for the vendors that are in town that might be selling?
Well, usually it's not so much competition because people make things by hand, it's
Right.
not what Target sells, it comes
Right.
from China, whatever's handmade.
Right.
I'll tell you what, we'll make a recommendation to the RAC to explore the recommendation. I think also we have to look and make sure that we're staffed properly with the RAC, because I can, Jamie, can I get a copy of the members? Make sure that we're fully staffed.
Recreational Advisory Committee.
And maybe
I
if
could
you're
help,
interested, maybe you
yeah.
can, and you don't even have to be a member, you can actually even attend and help them.
Oh, okay.
So,
I mean, it
why don't
would be
you talk
nice
to
if it would
Tyler?
be like in a park setting, because
Right.
in a parking lot, it's not, we did it in Beverly, okay? My daughter was a vendor in Beverly when it began, and it was in the church parking lot. And she, the coordinator, we knew her, she went to borrow people from Centerton and take, this is what they did in the beginning. And we began in Centerton,
Right.
but the area was so beautiful because it was a farm that, look at it now. Have you seen it now? Oh my God, it's like, now they have a waiting list. And, yeah, it's become like something that thousands of people go now every Saturday, so.
We'll have Councilman Burrell get in touch with you and work.
Again, but we're talking, it's an interesting idea. I don't know whether the township is necessarily the person to do that. I mean, this is a major undertaking, and I don't know whether it falls under the purview of us doing it as a township. I guess Centerton does that as a township, but let's have the RAC explore that and let us know.
Yeah, that's
the county.
Yeah,
It's the county.
Yeah, the county does that.
Yeah.
But there are towns that do it. I mean, we can look into it.
We'll talk with, about the RAC.
I'm not against it, I mean.
Great.
Okay?
Nothing.
She likes the idea.
Happy holidays, everybody. See you next year.
Okay.
Yeah, happy holidays.
Make the motion to
Okay, so we've gone around the room, so I'll ask for a motion to come out of public.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? We're adjourned. Now,